pure gold. Greatest stories never told.
Now the album is called Dirty Jordans. So what? First of all, what's the title meaning? And then like, what's the project? What is the project concept?
All right. Well, the title, I mean, I like contrasting things. You know, I like seeing different things put together. You know, and Jordans is always clean. Everybody, I mean, you spend so much money on your Jordans, whatever. Your J's are always clean. So first, there's that contrast. When you got dirty Jordans, that's two things right there. And really, the name, the title track on there, Dirty Jordans. When you listen to it, that joint in particular is real distorted, real heavy. It's real compressed. When I first made it, it wasn't like that. And I was never really feeling that beat. It was real clean. The whole thing was real clean. So I went back. I just distorted the hell out of the whole track, out of the whole beat. And then I was like, okay, well now I'm kind of fucking with this. But that's kind of where that contrast, it was real clean. And I went and just scuffed it up.
One thing I noticed with a lot of producer albums or instrumental albums is, of course, someone's going to have their groove, so the tempo is not going to vary a lot. But what I did notice and I liked was the tempos vary a lot. That makes me want to say, what's your process? Because it doesn't sound like a conveyor belt kind of thing. You know, it sounds like something else, you know.
I mean, the process on this was similar to how I did Heroes and Villains. The joint from last year was, I mean, this was before that. This is the precursor even to that. You know, this was really the test phase kind of warm-up joint where I was like, you know, let me just put together the instrumental joint. And it's the beats on Dirty Jordans, they were all just made at separate times. Like, you know, like if I'm making tracks, I just sit down and I just, whatever sample I hear, whatever comes to my head, I just make that. I just put it aside until I find someone to rhyme on it or put it on an album. So all these tracks, you know, these are older. Some are as old as, you know, 06 up through 2008 when I finished it. And I just went through and kind of just felt out, all right, well, this is going to sound good. Maybe place back, you know, back to back with this. And just kind of just listen through my, you know, just listen through my joints and just figured, all right, well, these might match up. But we got to speed the tempo up. So there's some where you're going to hear the tempo's gradually speeding up. So now, you know, it's a whole different look on that beat, and then it blends into the next one nice. So, you know, I mean, I try to experiment with a lot of that with the time changing.
When did you start making beats?
Started making beats. My first beat was probably when I was 14 or 15, something like that. And my uncle was a musician, is a musician still. And, you know, I mean, he had a studio in Hartford, so I'd be down there. And, yeah, the drum machines and all that. So, I mean, it's nothing I would play for nobody, but first beat was probably 15. But he always got me little drum machines or whatever my whole life. He bought me my first drum kit, all of that. And I played drums for a long time. So he really introduced me to everything.
Of obvious interest to me is, you know, the engineering part of your career. I noticed that there are articles you write. Who was it you published the articles with?
It's Above Ground magazine.
Above Ground. And I saw the articles, and they give insight into engineering for readers, and it's like real insight, and it's from an experienced voice. So, being that you're an active producer and an engineer, when did the engineering sort of come in, and how did it come in?
You know, I did a little. Like I said, my uncle had the studio, so I mean, my high school band, we would go down there and we would make our records. You know, more shit that no one's gonna hear. But you know, we go down there, make our records, and he had the 8-track joint with the cassette. You know, so we do that. But I'm sitting here watching him turn these knobs and be like, well, damn, you know, how do I get on that? I want to turn knobs too. I want to make things sound good. You know, because my main thing as an engineer is I just like good sounding music. You know, and that doesn't mean it needs to be like crystal clear orchestral shit. It could be grimy and gutter, but grimy doesn't mean bad. Grimy is appropriate. Bad sounding is bad sounding. You know, something just sounds like shit. It's just what it is. But something's grimy, that could be right and what's appropriate for it. You know, so that is where my whole mindset, you know, where I wanted to just make shit sound right. I want to make shit sound how it's supposed to be. You know, so I went to school, I went to music school, and I went out there thinking, oh, I'm going to do the drummer rock star thing. And at some point early on, I was like, nah, you know. And then they had the production and engineering department. So, I mean, I went into that, you know. So I went through that and just learned a lot of real traditional engineering, recording the 2-inch reels, recording big studio, type situations, which is pretty different from what I do now. But fundamentals are fundamentals. So I mean, that's kind of the article, the column I do lets me bring that aspect to it, because in my mind, I've been doing it for long enough where it's just like, oh, I know exactly what knob to reach, just whatever. But it's not that simple. So I figured for a few reasons, let me just let people know. Also makes my life easier. If I get good recorded vocals to come in the mix, all of a sudden my job is easy. Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of, I don't want to give up too much to the game because people need to call me to mix their records.
Right.
But I mean, everyone's trying to do their thing, so it's nice to, if the bar is raised higher, the bar is set higher, then everybody's gonna benefit from it.
Something that's, I guess, sort of general. If you can give a tip each, one tip for vocalists, one tip for beat makers, where you may hear something commonly negative, like, okay, I hear this done all the time. Something that's not too in depth, but kind of general.
Vocals, if I'm getting vocals in, where a lot of people go wrong is really with compression. Using compressors, and if people have like the hardware compression, they record through it. When you're recording, you can't undo that. It's hard to undo compression to make it sound natural again. So just be easy on it, and be gentle with it. You don't have to go crazy and squash it too much. Let the mix engineer do that. Then you can go back and you can adjust later on. When you're recording, you want it as nice and crispy as you can going in, but you want it, I don't want to say safe, but you want to do it in a way where it'll be flexible later on to work with. Beat wise, as far as when you want to go and get your tracks mixed or whatever. I mean, the big thing, if you can get your multi-tracks, if whatever you work on, whether it's MPC or computer or whatever, is going to give the engineers so much more flexibility on what they can do and how to make the sound better during the mix. If you can have everything broken out, kick, snare, your hats, bass, everything separated, I mean, as much as you can. Sometimes it's just not possible, but that makes life way easier. That's probably the first thing I would say.
Now, with my hand to God, I swear it's from the mouths of babes. Jesus, Mary, Joseph, they would all tell you the same. What I got to say is truth. I got no games or jokes to play. Ropes instead of chains. Those are thoughts from a...
Like I described them on the blog as I think I said like Metropolis sci-fi type style.
Your description is one of the better ones that I had seen. I saw what you put on the blog. That's one of the better descriptions that I've heard.
Yeah. They make very distinct music. Like it's got its own thing. So how does it like coming to the table with their stuff?
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, like I said, I heard the first album, Emergency Powers, when I was still in Boston before I moved to New York. When I moved to New York, I was like, well, now I basically got to start my whole career all over. As far as, production-wise, because no one down here really knows me. So I reached out to Backwoods. I was like, the Super Crown album is dope. If you're looking for production, I want to get down. You know what I mean? And the homie Pond had done most of the first album, and NASA was on the first album. Marmaduke, and I was like, just the whole sound. I was like, I want to fit into what these cats are doing. So me and Billy Wood sat down one day, and we listened through Dirty Jordans, and we just kicked it, just listened to a bunch of stuff. And he was like, yo, man, like, I mean, can we get more than just a couple from you? Can we get, like, you need to just come in on the album? And I'm like, all right, word, for sure. But it's interesting because Woods and Privilege are both two very different people. Woods said it in an interview recently, the joint was in the Village Voice. They came into the group as solo artists. They're leaving the group as solo artists. This is the last Supercon album. But then being solo artists coming in, I mean, they're both very different. Privileged rhyme styles, night and day to Billy Woods' rhyme style. Yeah. So, and at the time during the making of that, Privilege was living in Philly. So there's just, as many differences as possible putting it together, but they both have pretty close tasting beats, and then they just flip it in different ways. So that's what makes it so interesting.